Battle Wine podcast. So this guest that we're having on, I actually knew very little about, but every now and again someone reaches out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm a VA whistleblower. I want to say some things," and I'm like, "Come on." So I think you guys will get something out of this. You may agree, you may disagree, but at the same time, it's like this is someone who works there who experiences this every day, and I think it's great to get their perspective.
It's
Um,
important, definitely important to get somebody inside's perspective where, because you don't know, man. Because you watch it on TV doesn't mean you know.
sure, I
And
agree. I was just gonna say with that, it's been 3 weeks since you've been on the show.
I
People
know,
miss you, man.
dude. I don't know. You hold the ship down pretty well, dude. I've been traveling.
Thank
I spoke at Memorial Day at the Calvary Christian Center. I've spoken there twice. They have a huge Memorial Day celebration. It's awesome. I mean, if you're in Yuba City, California, it's above Sacramento, man, go to it. If you're nearby, you're Reno or you're in Tahoe or it's incredible. It's just the main thing they put on, and I always get to sit. I've been there twice. First time was 2016. This time I spoke this year. Um, there's an iconic video of a little Vietnamese girl when we were fleeing Saigon, of them putting her on a helicopter, and then there's a video of her actually coming off the helicopter as well. She lives down south. She takes a bus from Southern California 7 hours up to that event, and I'll get a picture. We take a picture together. She always sits right next to me before I go talk, and she
If
was
you
there
have
this
it,
year.
I'll have Harold put it on
Yeah, yeah,
screen.
I'll
So
send.
send it to
She's
me.
she's wonderful, but the Vietnam veterans and the people that have been through Vietnam and those Vietnamese that did get rescued and came to the States. They're still so thankful of the American presence there. And I know people, oh, Vietnam is terrible. Not to the people that actually were saved from the North Vietnamese or not, and just sitting there and her wearing. She has a red, white, and blue, kind of a kimono dress that she wears. Ice kimono is not Vietnamese, guys. I know, but I don't know what to call it. Sorry,
Yeah,
but but it's just amazing, and dude, it makes you cry. All the veterans that come, and the only sad thing though this year when they called the World War II veterans to come up because they'll call each war, there was one. Man, we're losing them, man, because they're
yeah. There's
just
not many left.
no.
It's interesting because I remember we were talking about that on an episode, and then I remember you said this. Then I was like, I gotta look because you were like, "Hey, even if there's a World War I survivor who wants to come on," and I was like, "There's no way there's any."
There's no.
And
Is
then I
there? Is
looked, and I'm
there?
like, "I know, there no because there's so few
Yeah,
World
that would
War
be
II. Like, now I have to Google it just to cover
the
my ass here.
stories.
Let's see, is there,
But
are there? Let's see if
yeah,
Google knows. Are there
but
any living
any
WW1
yeah,
survivors? I mean, how old would they be at this point?
100
The no, the
120.
last, according to Google, the last living
Yeah.
veteran of World War I was Florence Green. She was a British woman who served in the Allied Armed Forces and who died on February 12th at age 110. So I mean, yeah, no one is
Wow.
going to be 120
120, yeah,
something.
right. 100.
So yeah, I mean, 2012 was the last living
Oh
one.
man.
But I remember you said that because you and I were even talking about this that I saw a guy before I got on the train. And we were like, what era was he? Because he's in his 80s. And then you were like, maybe it's World War II. And I was like, I don't think. I think you'd have to be too old. And then we are doing the math in our head and we're like, no, no, no. He's too young to be World War II because you'd have to be 90s at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
And how many 90 plus year old living men are there? I mean, we interviewed one of the last that we are going to hear from. And I mean, we had a Holocaust survivor on. We're losing those people too.
And
So
just love any. And so, if there's any listeners out there, World War II veterans or Holocaust, we want you on, man. I just love talking. I just the stories, and then listening back to those episodes, like, wow, man, I can't believe I got to hear that. Because especially when Speranza passed, it's like
yeah, yeah.
you don't realize how cool that is, and it's sad to say that, but until they pass, like, man, nobody's ever going to be able to talk to this guy again. And he gave us the beer story, which was still freaking one of the best stories you've had on the podcast. The beer
And
in
if
the
I remember
helmet
at
that they
the
used to shit and piss in. Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember at the end, he was saying he was still getting in planes at that age.
Yeah, he
Like,
still was
like,
jumping. They jump. They do the honor or forget where they tandem them in with the jumper, and they still jump them in. Yeah, static line
insane.
too. Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, I got to go there. Then I drove all the way across to Florence, Alabama, and I spoke at Faith Church, which is one of those contemporary, super cool. Man, it was like a freaking concert. It was unbelievable. The band that was up there was unreal. Rock. It was more of the rock that you and I. like the old school rock, but it was
But it was Christian rock.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
Christian rock band. I forget the name. One of guys were tremendous. And then I got to speak, and it was for a men's group called the Invictus. They have an Invictus group. So if you're in Alabama, check those guys out, dude. Faith Church, they have a men's group called Invictus, and 700 dudes. I've never spoke to that many dudes, and there's no women allowed in that was because it's a men's group. 700 dudes. It was pretty humbling, man. It was really humbling. But if you're in Alabama or you're in Northern California and you're looking for churches or you're looking for groups, Christian groups to be both of those, I highly recommend. I mean, they're wonderful people. And Florence, then I taught a course in Florence to their security team, which was outstanding. I got to send you a picture of the ladies, the man and the husband and wife team that own the range. You would never think that they own ranges. The one little lady, she's got to be 70, 60 years old, big white glasses, but wonderful people. Drive up to the range, and it looks like you're passing Santa's workshop off to the left. This in Florence, Alabama. Wonderful group. And then I came home and I taught a course last weekend, open enrollment battle line tactical course, and we had 22 people, and it was awesome. So pretty busy, a lot of travel, and yeah. So sorry I missed you guys. Ian held it down the fort. Good episodes. I just it's hard to do those and we've tried one. Have we ever tried one at a hotel? It just doesn't work, man. If I'm at a
I don't
hotel, by
know.
the time I get there, I'm wiped, and then the connection sometimes sucks. So it's just better for Ian to rock on by himself than me try to jump on there. But it was amazing, amazing 3 weeks, and amazing two churches and amazing group of people. I gotta meet, I gotta learn, and so went to a place called Southern Defense there in Florence, Alabama, big gun shop. One a great bunch of people there. I did a picture of it on Instagram. Kid in a candy store. Wonderful. Just just good times, man. Good memories, good experiences, and I'm back home finally for about a month. Here we are.
Awesome. All right. So with that, we'll get right into this episode. Don't go anywhere.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Kris, Tonto Peranto,
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on Battle Line Podcast, and here's the thing. We're on with an anonymous guest. You guys may remember back on episode 282, there was a whistleblower who worked for Veteran Affairs who went by the name of Johnny, not his real name, but he had an account on X and was tweeting out about corruption at Veteran Affairs. And this anonymous guest, we're going to call her Rebecca. That's not her name, but we'll go with Rebecca. Messaged me or messaged Battle Line Podcast on Facebook and said, "Hey, I work for Veteran Affairs, and I can tell you about a whole lot more corruption going on in addition to what Johnny stated." So, just to give some background here, Rebecca is an employee of Veteran Affairs, Office of Special Counsel, doctor. I think that's vague enough that I could say all that. If you need me to edit any of that, that's
Cut it
fine.
out. Yeah.
I'm
But
not OSC. I went to OSC, but I don't work for
Maybe
OSC.
we should keep it in there. Then hey, yeah, that'll work.
okay. No, I got all right. That works then. And just, for the audience to show who you are and the fact that like you've been doing this a while. So yeah, I guess just your background and the thing that I could tell from just us messaging is that you are very passionate about veterans issues. With your background, you obviously could have a job outside of veteran affairs that I would assume probably pays a lot more, but you took this because you're passionate about helping veterans.
I am. I am. I thank you both for your service and what you
Well, just
do.
Chris there. I would be stolen valor. So
Oh, okay. We don't want that.
Thanks, ma'am. I told you, ma'am, Rebecca. No, ma'am. We're gonna keep it this, ma'am. No, thank you.
The vets are the only reason I stay. I trained in VA. I have veterans in my family going back generations, and I love them. They're the only reason I stay. And you're right. I could get a job elsewhere paying a lot more money, but they're my heart. And if we don't advocate for them, who's going to?
No, you're right. Well, we appreciate, and you're so right because yeah, a lot of us, and a lot of us veterans, we get complacent as well. So people that, and it's just because maybe what we do, or maybe it's we see what happens when we leave. I know it's affected me, and even though I don't say it too often, but it's affected a lot of others that do with the Afghanistan pullout and how that affects our psyches. And hey, what the heck do we do, and why did we do this, and was it worth the deployments, or was it worth being gone? And some of us step aside, and it takes people like you to step in and still care. When I'll be quite honest, sometimes, and I've had that, but I'm back into the fight again where we just don't give a shit. Because like,
Yeah.
what's the fight worth? Because we already did, and they really just left it back to our enemies. And so it's nice to hear that. And yeah, you're a cog to keep veterans engaged, to be more
I
honest.
hope
That's as
so.
simple as it is right there. So thank you. We
Thank you
appreciate
for saying that. A lot of people here, it's the whole reason they stay. It's not for the money, and it's not for the party. Um, as you've seen on national television, we've been such a subject of ridicule and really hate. Recently, federal employees have. We stay because we care. And I just can't stand the way veterans are being treated on a national stage as well. One third of you all are government employees, and in fact, work for the Veterans Administration yourselves. So, for those of you who are combat veterans, you've fought for us. You come back and fight for your benefits. You
it.
fight for service connection, and it's just not right. It's not fair that you have to come back and fight for what's an entitlement benefit
It
as
is.
well.
It's tough. Not, and we don't know all the things that we qualify for. I just found out again that there are things that I just found out on a talk with an American Legion rep, that there are things that I haven't applied for because of just being airborne qualified. Not even combat. It's just being
The
airborne qualified
airborne.
that I should have applied for 10 years ago, when I got out. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm old. It's been longer than 10 years. I'm not 40 anymore. But it's like, how did I not know this? How did nobody tell me this? Why isn't
Right.
somebody telling? Why are we having to try to find and dig these little things that we are actually entitled, like you said, entitled to, but nobody's telling us? And the reason being is because it's more money that the government has to pay to veterans, individual veterans, for their benefits, which we shouldn't have to try to guess and try to meet people
No,
like yourself that know the ins and outs and say, why are you not doing this? Well, it's because I didn't know. Can you help me? So,
exactly. Well,
what?
and I don't certainly claim to know all the ins and outs. I sure look for them, and I pay a lot of attention. It could be a full-time job.
Sure.
Um, it's a full-time job to pay attention to the benefits that change within Congress and the VA provides, let alone the financial aspects through, excuse me, Veterans Health Administration, let alone the Benefits Administration. So they're all part of Veterans Administration, but two separate arms.
Right.
So a lot of people don't recognize that Veterans Administration has three separate arms: the Health Administration, the benefits, and cemeteries.
Absolutely. So,
I
I
know.
mean, getting into the gist of everything, though, the main reason that you reached out to us. So, what is the corruption that you've seen? Like, where did it begin that you saw there was corruption going on, and what do people need to know about, and the reason that you wanted to come on and expose it?
I just feel like, we're diametrically opposed. The clinicians who are here to support veterans are not on the same page as management. And Congress, the money that's allocated by Congress isn't what's supposed to be done with it, isn't what's done with it. I mean, we've seen in the media the bonuses that went out um, to the senior executive staff. I think it was close to $10 million in bonuses that was misallocated, misappropriated by Congress. Um, was fall of 23, I believe that happened.
Wow.
Um, and that was meant for veteran treatment. And if you did that in the private sector, that would be embezzlement, I believe. So how do these people, I think that the top person ended up losing his job, but it was really kind of quiet and they got to walk away with dignity. Those people should be put in prison. Why is that not a crime?
Well, that's a good question. Why? Well, we ask ourselves, and that's what people like yourself hopefully can shed some light on why, and more people come forward. I wasn't aware of that. The bonuses that come in, yeah, who's the oversight? Do we have oversight? I've seen some of the videos from the new VA director, but I'm not, I've seen enough rah-rah speeches politics in progress 8 million times, and they're usually bullshit. So
Yeah.
what is this, or is this new director, is he doing something, or is it still just the same old thing? We're just going down the same old path because either one is too hard to fix, or two, the money. The money is that's big money in upper management's pockets, and they don't want to give that up.
I wish it were that easy to answer. I think that there are independent oversight agencies that were intended to watch some of these things. And with the new administration, they have been kind of cut off at the knees. So the Office of Special Counsel is one oversight agency, the only one that I'm aware of that is a watchdog for federal organizations. And our current United States president fired the head of that organization because he did not want to be investigated for removing probationary employees.
And
So
this is
it's,
a problem that I'm seeing because I think everybody just assumes, oh, they're getting rid of employees that don't need to be there. And then, I hear from you and I hear from people like Jason who we had on who still work in government, and they're like, no, that's not the case.
yeah. So, what's really interesting is I would say that the vast majority of the people who work at VA are amazing people. Um, in the union, I don't see people coming through who are trying to scam the system and keep their jobs and doing wrongdoing. It's the people who are what we call bargaining versus non-bargaining. So the union can help bargaining folks, but they can't help people who are non-bargaining. So supervisors, senior executive staff, the people in charge who are running the show. The union does not represent them.
Okay.
So, and that's where the vast majority of the problem is. So when our president talked about draining the swamp, I think he got confused about what the swamp actually was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we talked about it on this show. We've talked about it several times with Jason, and then we had our other gentleman,
Oh,
the
Johnny. Yeah, the
yeah,
whistleblower. Yeah.
but we even said that when that was going on, we said, I agree with. I agree with the cuts. I agree with cutting it, but we said you're cutting the wrong people. You should
Yeah,
be cutting up high, cutting the fat up top where all these bureaucrats don't need to be there. You only need one or two. You don't need 8 million of them, but they were cutting all the probationary. And we had some back and forth with a couple of our other guests at one point, but I agreed with the cuts, but I don't I agree with you is they're not cutting the right people. And
yeah,
that's what's you're not saving any money,
no,
obviously, and the money now is even getting pushed in the other direction because those people at top have that control to do it. The probationary people didn't.
you're
It's
exactly right. And at the same time, it's union busting because when they're getting rid of these people who are bargaining, we have less bargaining power.
sure.
So it doesn't allow us to have the enrollment in a union, local union like we would. They cut off our automatic payroll deductions. So it wasn't union busting from the front, but the president signed an executive order where they no longer would allow the federal government to take out dues from employees' payroll, which
So I'm
really,
wondering what specific stuff are you seeing? Because like when we had Johnny on, right, and the thing that
yeah,
he was describing was he said that people are getting these bonuses just for moving people along in the system, and he was
oh
like,
yeah.
I have the paperwork to prove this, and he's put out some of that stuff on X. Like, what is there anything? Because the stuff that you're mentioning, a lot of it, truthfully, right? We've heard in the media, we've heard they're cutting the wrong people, but is there anything like you're specifically seeing from the inside that we would go? Holy shit, I can't believe this is going on.
Well, you might not say holy shit because you probably will believe what's going on, but
Bro, yeah.
one big issue I think is the care in the community referrals. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but the care in the community referrals are slowed. I think they're trying to violate the Mission Act and bring people back into care within VA when there's not the infrastructure. We're laying off.
Hey, man, so you're talking about the office community care, they're trying to push that away. They're trying to get rid of
Yeah, yeah,
that. That's a big fucking deal. Because
yeah,
that's small town people like myself that live 2 hours from a VA facility. That
yeah.
has helped us immense. Keep going. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, keep rolling. I love
Well,
it.
certainly not on the outside, they'll tell you that. But on the inside, they're trying to bring back people into VA care, but at the same time, they're laying off how many hundreds of thousands of people with these rifts based on the president. So non people who are still probationary status, their probation's been extended for a year. We don't have the ability to hire. So there's been a hiring freeze since the new president took office. So we're not backfilling positions of people who have left. I think in some professions we're at a critical area locally when you're trying to bring in new patients or trying to convince people why to stay at VA. And I think VA really provides top-notch care. But you can't provide top-notch care if you're chasing all your providers away because you're not treating them well.
Gotcha. Go
And
ahead.
so,
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead. I'm
oh
sorry.
no, you're fine.
Go
Um, Care in the community, wait times, I think they're not paid in a timely manner. I've heard complaints years that some of these providers haven't been paid, and they, you can't abandon your patients, but they also have to pay their bills.
Yeah.
So it's some of the providers have actually gotten involved in the advocacy and trying to help their patients. And that's just a direct violation of the Mission Act. And they're not being honest with Congress about what they're doing. And so the wait times with VA, they're canceling appointments for new patients to get them, or excuse me, canceling appointments for long-standing patients to let new patients in to make it look like the wait times are quicker, but people who have been established are getting their appointments canceled, so their wait times are longer. It's just a way of kind of falsifying or playing with the numbers, so they look to be a different way.
Yeah, and for those that don't understand what Rebecca is saying is for those of us in the system, we used to have to go to a VA hospital. It's the only place we could get treated. And yeah, I think in early, 2012's area timeframe, they made Office of Community Care where we could go see these outside providers. And if they take that away, I'm able, well, when I had my hip surgery, how it would have been so hard for me just to get to Fayetteville, Arkansas, or up to Kansas City just to get an appointment done. And having these providers, these private providers that we can go see now that are part of the VA system helped out immensely because instead of me driving 2 hours or having to get a ride there, some of these guys can't.
Right.
Oh, I could go to my local physician here, which was not so much nicer too, because he became my local primary care. It's like having a doctor in your hometown instead of having to go to the VA. And there's nothing wrong with going to the VA because the hospitals are amazing now. There's some of them, the Omaha one, the Fayetteville one, even the Joplin clinic that I have are great. But for us that live rurally, if we don't have that Office of Community Care, that will hurt a lot of veterans immensely just because we can't get there. And I didn't know that was going on. I had no idea that they were trying to cut that. And that is that would hurt. You would see a lot more suicide. I'll tell you that right now. You'll see a lot more suicides if that,
Right.
because the guys won't be getting the care because they're not going to travel 2 hours to the
No, it's
they're
crazy.
not. It's
Who
not
would
going to
do
happen.
that? I would never travel 2 hours for an appointment.
Well, that's it. Ask if you're a civil. Would you do that as a civilian?
Heck
No.
no.
No, you're trying
No
to find
way.
somebody locally. And
Yeah.
has that been going? This is the first I've heard of that. Has that been going on for a while behind the scenes, or is it,
Oh
or
yeah.
since Doe?
Years.
And it was it since Doe started, or was it before that, or was it
Yeah, I would say at least 2 years.
okay?
So the referrals are slower. And I think the money was really mismanaged. It almost bankrupt VA. So that was part of, I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is part of why that congressional bailout had to happen. There was a $3 billion bailout by Congress to keep the VA running to make sure veterans still had health care. And it was because care in the community was so mismanaged.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this episode, getting something out of this interview. A lot of stuff at the VA that needs adjusting, to say the very least. That would be putting it in a minor way. But before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with every pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. You'll get the best deal when you go to fsm.com and you use the promo code BATTLEWINE. BATTLEWINE promo code for just one word, 15% off your order for most products on the site. And they have so much different ammo. So that's for you guys. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Kris Paranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. Once again, fsm.com. Simple as that. Promo code Battleline. The thing
And
that, like, from a layman's point of view, that just like blows my mind is when you look at the budget of the U.S., right? Like a huge chunk of that is the military budget. But then when you look at what that money is going towards, so much of it is like literally, it's nuclear bombs that we could never ever use because the entire world would explode, right? Like, there's no reason to have all of that, just being
Yeah.
honest. Like, unless you want to make the entire planet extinct. So it's like, I don't know. How do we have the money for that? But like, I don't know, not armored vehicles for troops and not basic healthcare. Like, that should be the priority. And I don't, even if you're ultra conservative or ultra liberal, I would think all of us could agree on that.
It's an interesting oxymoron because a lot of the people who voted for our current administration are, I think, experiencing a rather crude and abrupt wake-up call because they're being directly affected by what's happening.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, but I do think I'd counter that with I think veterans also experienced like a lot of things that they didn't like under Biden, right? And you're never going to like anything that any administration, everything that any administration
True.
does. I mean,
Yeah,
I could openly say, right, I voted for Trump, Chris did. Are there things that I've seen that I have not liked? Yes, there was a ton of things I could tell you I didn't like under Biden as well. And I don't think anyone has fixed the VA backlog, and I don't think it's been a priority for anyone, to be honest.
yeah. Um, I'm always puzzled. I don't know about you both, but the political underpinnings within the VA. So, we have the Hatch Act. You can't be openly political within VA if you work at VA, but at the same time, the VA is completely political. It's
Yes,
completely politicized. Everything
it
about it, how we get our money,
is.
how our raises are affected, how the vets are affected, and it just, do as I say, but not as I do. And it's kind of bizarre to me.
It's you can't control human nature. I think the best thing that the VA did, just to even try to, is you go in the VA now, you're not going to see news on the TV, which is great. I don't want to see that. I don't care if Fox are seeing it when you go in the VA. It should be apolitical. It should.
It should be more
And
peaceful, right?
you know, but we vote. The veterans community is a big, strong proponent of, you want those voters. So sadly, politics is gonna play a lot of it. It's still, it shouldn't be. You're right, but how do you fix it? I guess we can complain about it, but how do you fix it? How do you fix human nature? How do you fix there's too much news out there for everyone, and how do you tell them, hey, stop this at the door? As soon as you walk through these doors, you don't talk about it anymore. There's no way to. It's great you can put that out, but how are you going to stop it? You're
I
not.
don't mean veterans voting. Of course, we want vets to vote, but what I'm suggesting is the way money is allocated is so political, and that's problematic. Um, you guys earned the benefits that you have with your bodies. That's why
I
it's an entitlement benefit,
I
and
agree.
to take those away based on a political whim to me is just unconscionable.
That is something and that's just putting the right people in the right positions, which we are failing to do. And obviously, you're being here, we are obviously failing to do that again up in those management positions where greed and corruption become to the forefront, because of power and money. And it's
Yeah,
hard to have people just to have some sort of morality when they get in there and they have all this control. It corrupts the best of us. It does. And
yeah. Well, I hope not. But it seems to corrupt a lot of people in these positions, and the current administration actually wants to politicize the VA even more and to have allegiance from the VA to the presidency. And there's a reason that we have these checks and balances and the separation, um, in my opinion. It may not be everybody's opinion, but I think that separation is important, um, primarily because politics shouldn't influence
oh,
veterans' benefits.
well, and the way you get allegiance from veterans is you take care of them. Yeah,
Exactly,
I understand.
right?
I
That's
mean,
not,
that's common sense to me. And No, but I have seen. I've been lucky being in the Midwest. I've been blessed that most of the VA people that I'm around here in the Midwest, whether it be from Omaha all the way down to Fayetteville, Arkansas, they take great care of us. I've had no complaints, but I also am patient. I don't get seen right away. I don't. But I also understand that's I guess we get again we get used to we get accustomed to because we honest it's the VA. I'm not going to probably get seen for a month. Got it. I mean, I my quad ripped in half, and the earliest I could get in to get surgery through the Office of Community Care to an outside orthopedic surgeon who did a wonderful job in Galena was a month. So I'm walking around on a gimpy leg for a month. Can any of you civilians out there, would you do that? I
No,
would,
that's
would you do that with a ripped
outrageous.
quad that you could not see an orthopedic surgeon for a month because I was getting it cleared through the Office of Community Care? Now I know why it took a month because
Yeah. I will say
you're
though,
on.
right, to counter
But
that, right, for civilians, if you live in a major city, right, oh,
would it take that long?
you're
Would
gonna
it
you're
take?
gonna have huge wait time for things. I mean, I could just tell you, like, when my dad took a really bad fall here in town, and I had to drive him to the hospital, and he was bleeding from the face. He ended up having to get plastic surgery. He was waiting in the emergency ward for hours upon hours upon hours, and I mean, this would be a whole nother discussion, but it's like, yeah, you have illegal immigrants in there you have to see. You have it, so there's a huge waiting time for that. We're in a more crowded area.
Yeah.
I think that there's like multiple obstacles of why people are experiencing this. And it is funny because like you see all this stuff online about, we're not going to renew the population growth because like there's not enough people having children. And I like go around here and I'm like, yeah, I think it's a little like too crowded. Where you are, Chris, it's pretty
No, we're
it's
good.
yeah. So
We're
so
good.
I'm sure if you're a
Population's just fine.
civilian with
Yeah.
like regular good health care, yeah, you're not waiting a month. New York City, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked.
But Rebecca, I knew that was going to happen, so it didn't bother me. I mean, it's like sucked because yeah, I had to on a walker but I understood that it's the VA. It's going to take that long. And when
But
I
you guys
finally
are
did,
warriors. You're warriors and you're used to putting up with being in pain, and you
true.
shouldn't have to. It's barbaric that we treat you that way.
Well, I hope that it does get better and faster. I do. How do we do? Okay, so we can keep the checks and balances, but if we're still not removing the upper level, the greedy people up top that need to be gone and filling it with actual workers, because the workers on the ground at the VA are awesome. They
I think
are
so
freaking
too.
awesome.
Yeah.
They're all, how do we do that? I mean, we hear it, and also Johnny, who we had on, was that our pseudo guy? I
Yeah.
forget. I asked him the same question, and we there, and I don't have an answer for you. I'm asking, not trying to put you on the spot, but it's how do we fix it? Because they're not going to voluntarily leave their $500,000 job, six-figure job because they suddenly had a realization of their conscience and said, "Oh man, I'm really fucking people over."
Yeah.
Not going
I
to
think what
happen.
it's going to take is a combination of the right Congress people, a combination of caring, concerned, dedicated VA employees and veterans all working together to put their foot down and change some of these laws. So until the laws change and people are held personally accountable, I don't think anything's going to change until they have personal liability in some of these decisions that they make, and they realize the harm that they cause people. The cover-ups that you see in some of the suicides, instead of a tort claim, it should be a personal lawsuit against these people. You don't get to cover stuff up at the VA. It's just like it would be in the private sector. That's what I think personally.
Is Are there not big civil lawsuits? I guess you just I've never seen one.
You can't sue
And
the
I'm just
federal
coming to the
government.
realization, wait, on a suicide in a VA parking lot, I've never seen a civil lawsuit. Is there not? Or do we just not see them? Are they not put out there in the media?
People can file tort claims against the VA, and I'm not a lawyer, but My understanding is you cannot sue the federal government. And that goes for employees too. So, say there was a mass shooting event and there were people traumatized, and the agency didn't do what they were supposed to do to keep employees safe. Well, the agency really has no liability there.
Wow. I
Yeah.
know that.
And
I
it's
think
mind
there's just
blowing.
I was just gonna say, I think there's just massive changes that need to be made in healthcare throughout the country, VA and not VA. I mean, it's the same thing as when you're
True.
hearing about just for normal civilians that you hear like AI is making decisions about if someone gets cancer treatment or not. Like, what type of a world are we living in where we have that little compassion for each other and we just have decisions made on the bottom line, not even by a human, by a computer, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually a psychiatrist who wrote a book about something similar, that people have gone so far to the left brain in dealing with each other that we're too logical and we lack compassion. And that's part of the problem with society nowadays. We're not relating to each other as humans, and we've lost the sense of empathy that it takes to live in a developed, compassionate, empathetic society.
Yeah,
And
I
it's,
agree. I think people have become desensitized because of the fact that it's like you turn on the news every day, it's another shooting. You go on X and it's like the most outrageous shit is what trends. And I'm not just saying outrageous in terms of headlines, like a literal shooting. Like watching a live, like someone actually, because I do the news for Salem Media Network. I reported on a literal shooting of a live streamer who shot another live streamer on the Las Vegas Strip, and they live streamed the whole thing. And then that type of stuff trends. Could you believe this guy like shot and killed someone on the Las Vegas Strip, and people want to watch that? And it's like, I don't know, man. If your brain is affected by that every single day, that's what you're watching day in and day out. Like,
yeah,
we're all going to be desensitized by this stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the stuff that's just going on in the world right now, you can't make this up. If you had asked me 20 years ago if this would happen, watching The Simpsons, these predictions that are coming,
Yeah.
well, I would have said no way. And here we are living it.
Yeah. Do you with the VA system? I don't know if we're really at a cross. Well, maybe we're always at a crossroads. Give me a prediction. And this is, of course, we don't hold you to it, but we're talking about Simpsons and the Simpsons. They are. It's funny that a lot of those old cartoons really are coming to fruition. So, but what do you see 20 years from now? What do you see at the VA system? Do you see it gone? Do you see?
No, the VA is not going anywhere. I mean, there's been rumors that they're trying to privatize, and that's
Yeah, I've
that's
heard that.
the reason for cutting all these employees. And um, the vets will never let it happen, but the vets are going to have to stand up and get more active and involved, and have the same kind of passion for themselves that they did when they were fighting in combat. Um, it's like when veterans stand up and put their mind to something, people pay attention. Look at
Yeah.
Disabled Veterans of America. Um, People pay attention. It's a huge advocacy group, or Disabled American Veterans, I should say. It's a huge advocacy group. They've got a ton of power. And I think us banding together may really make a difference.
In terms of the idea of the VA going away, I was going to say, I mean, look, Chris and I have both known Pete Hegseth before all of this. I knew Pete Hegseth actually like before he was regularly in Fox and all this. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, because of the fact that Pete got his start at Concerned Veterans for America, which is a Republican super PAC, which was
Exactly.
trying to privatize the VA. And when I do say that, I just want to throw out there, I've been critical of certain things with Pete Hegseth, but like by no means do I think he's like an evil guy who wants the worst for vets, especially being a veteran himself. I think he does believe that if you privatized veterans health care, it would be better. I think that's genuinely what he believes. Obviously, for someone like you, you have a completely different viewpoint on that. But my only point is I wouldn't be surprised if that is a goal of his because of his background.
I struggle with Mr. Hickseth just because of some of his poor insight and judgment in his past history of decision making. So I don't know. I struggle also with some of the veterans who are in charge at VA, and it's like they seem to, not all of them, but a lot seem to turn on their fellow brothers and sisters. And I don't know where that comes from. You would think they'd be the strongest allies. And I don't always witness that, which is even more troubling for some reason. You know,
What what do you see, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, what do you like? What sort of things you? Again, if it's politics, then what are we gonna do? Shit, I swear, everybody's at each other. I don't. That's why I don't even do a lot of political crap anymore because I'm just tired of it. I'm over it.
yeah.
Is it that, or is it something deeper than that?
Well, I wonder, is it everyone's out for themselves, and once you put your toe in something, oh, it's not so bad. I can go a little bit more. And, I realize I can make a much bigger bonus if I am not honest about these things. And maybe it happens to screw over so many people. Um, but so be it.
It's an I got my.
And
Hey
that is
man,
like the human condition. I think
social
people
media.
always
It's so cool.
I I was going to
I
say
got
people
mine.
slowly always start to if people always slowly justify like one thing after the next
And
of
it's not
like, yeah,
everybody. And there are some vets who in leadership who are just stand-up people. I would trust them with my life. Um, but there are others just like regular people, it's just like
sure.
civilians. Um, but I guess maybe it's just me that I'm more shocked to see it coming from people who have actually served. I wouldn't expect that.
We have this saying that if you take care of the soldier, you're an officer or you're a senior enlisted, and you take care of the soldier, you're not going to move up in rank. You got to play ball to move up in rank, and it just sounds like it's this. And that was these when I joined the '90s. I was like, and that's the truth. You do your job well and you're honest and you have morality, you're going to move up, but you won't move up to those upper tiers. You got to play ball. You got to sell out.
Isn't
And
that
it sounds like
interesting?
it's the same sort of thing. It's what it sounds like to me.
So there's a strategy and almost a dishonesty that's kind of built into those higher positions, maybe looking the other way sometimes when, you shouldn't or you wouldn't expect that from your subordinates.
And that's again where you got to go in and you got to cut the top off. You can't and rebuild that mechanism with people training them the right way and holding them accountable and instilling morality. But we're kind of in a full circle. If you're
Yeah.
just cutting, if you're cutting and you're firing all the probationary people that you're trying to train right, and you're
Yes.
keeping that, well, the system will never be fixed. It will never ever be fixed.
That's a
It
great
won't.
point.
And that's what Johnny said, and I agree with him. And I've said that even without you or Johnny on the show, we've said that, and that's the truth with anything. But the VA especially, that's why I always take it with a grain of salt when somebody new comes in and I'm going to change this and that. And I've heard that 8 million times with the agency and State Department guys. Never worked. It's never going because y'all are full of shit. You're out for yourselves. And eventually, hopefully, someone gets in there that does have some morality. But that means they're going to ruffle feathers and they're not going to be yes men.
Yeah.
So they're it's
They're
a
not going
never
to
ending cycle. They're
last.
going to get fired by the politician that appointed them.
Exactly.
It sucks. But
Well, but I think part of the problem is it's a self-policing agency. So they don't want to air their dirty laundry. Nobody does. But you have to be honest. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is there's a lack of transparency and a spinning of these stories to tell a certain narrative. And that narrative is not one in reality that's rooted in reality. It's one that the VA has created.
and can is there a way to we have the Office of Accountability, but that's another government office. We talk about privatization. Is there a way to privatize an oversight committee. I don't, you always see
You
these
can't if
committees,
it's
and
the government. I mean,
I've been through 8 million committees with what happened to me, and I'll tell you what, they're still they're out there just to say they did it. But
But
yeah,
there
I
has
miss
to be
you.
the money in it, right? They would have to be funded. And I think that's part of the problem. Like the Office of Special Counsel is super underfunded. They're not just responsible for VA, they're responsible for the oversight of all federal organizations. And as the only oversight organization that kind of polices, that's a tremendous job. The Office of Government Oversight, the Office on Government Oversight, GAO, Government Accountability Office.
Yeah, I just when it's government, I don't ever see the silver lining, and that's just me. From what I've been through, at least on the top
which,
level.
by the way, could I just like to counter
Yes,
that?
please.
That would be someone like Pete Hegseth's argument that would say, yes, the government does get everything wrong, so why not put veterans into private health care? I think that would be his argument, right? And that's why I say I don't think he's like, look, I've been once again been a critical guy. I don't think he's like a horrible person who's like, let's just slash all veterans benefits. I think he's like, yeah, it may work out better if we put veterans into the private healthcare system. And I do think there's people who believe that would be the better option because they inherently believe that the government does screw up things, right? So just to balance things, I like because I
Yeah,
get your perspective, Rebecca, but I think if someone like Pete was on this episode, that's what he would argue.
Well, my argument to that would be then why are you cutting the Office of Community Care, which is to me was
Because
to
wouldn't
me
it be
was
like let's throw them
transitioning.
into the private sector then and
Well, that they
get
did.
it?
We're
Yeah,
going and seeing private doctors, and that's the thing. And if
sure.
they're cutting
Yeah.
it, no, I agree with you, bud. I do. I do.
It's not even my opinion. I'm just trying. I'm channeling Pete Hegseth. Okay.
my
And he
concern is,
and back he doesn't channel Pete Hicks. He's been extremely critical of, and
oh, good. I feel
me and Pete
better.
aren't buddies by any means. We got nothing anyway. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Let's see, what was I gonna say?
I don't
Oh,
know, just the argument of like putting veterans into the private sector or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. My concern would be that civilian providers don't understand the specific challenges veterans face, particularly in mental health care. I think sometimes our own providers don't entirely understand it. Um,
Yeah.
and the challenges that we face politically, and veterans face politically. And the veterans are such a unique population that privatizing VA entirely would be a disservice just because they're a specific cultural group.
I think there is a way to do that, but you have to do it slowly, which is what I thought we were doing when they did the Office of Community Care. Honestly, I thought that's we over time they were starting to move that way, and it was successful, at least for me. I thought it was extremely. I love it. I love being able to go see a private physician, and I don't have to go all the way to a VA.
Yeah,
And a lot of our private physicians out here that I do see I didn't ask. I thought they went through, I thought they had gone through training to work with veterans because they've been wonderful. I've had no issues. Now, so I really did. That's why this is a shock to me is that they're trying to get away from it, because to us out here that live rurally, I can't think of one person that hasn't thought it's been a success. Because all of us, nobody said a bad thing about it just because of the travel, and also, the wait times have gotten longer, but like I've told you, we're kind of used to that. But they were still a lot longer to go drive and then wait at the VA hospital for several hours, especially the big ones, and going to a small rural clinic. And, there's four people in the waiting room.
right.
This is great. I mean, and it makes you feel normal. It makes you not feel,
Right.
you kind of want to feel, I mean, you want to feel like a veteran at the VA house, but there are also times you just want to feel like just a normal person going to the doctor.
Aw. Yeah. Well, what you
It,
deserve that.
but is there, is the money and all that? And I know we're kind of beating a dead horse, and I'm coming to the end anyway because really it is. I just don't know if there's an answer for it. Are you saying that they're still cutting just more of the lower, and no disrespect you guys, but the entry level, lower echelon jobs, and they're not going to do anything to the management, or are they going to hear us? And how do we tell them, hey, you need to start firing those upper management people? How do we do that without and it actually taking root? I don't see that happening. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to be one of those guys that says it on my platforms all the time, but
You got to get involved in your local VAs, and if something
I
goes
am.
wrong, go to Congress. I have seen success in various VAs where you have a good director and they put enough pressure. The local congressperson or senator puts enough pressure on the VA based on wait times or a particular clinic that's run poorly, and there's accountability.
Yeah.
So
Can I add some humor to this since this is a
Yeah, yeah.
very serious subject? I was gonna say up until like a year ago, you know who my congressman was? George Santos. Do you think he would have done anything about this if you called him?
Oh Lord. Oh man.
It's
I
so funny too because like I'm on Long Island, New York, right? This is like a nice area, and you always think like the laughing stock of Congress is going to be someone in like Boise, Idaho, or something. But like, no, we had the
yeah,
laughing
you
stock
got
of
it. You
Congress
got
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
It was we
Yeah,
definitely had the award for that.
oh wow, no, you wouldn't have gotten far with George Santos.
yeah. No. I
Yeah. What were you gonna
no,
say, Chris?
I
Sorry.
do. I do. I know money is the issue a lot, and it always is. And I'll be honest, but I just don't see any until it's just going to happen. We're going to get an anomaly in there one of these days that is actually has some moral courage and also has a person above him, whether it's the president or SecDef or whoever, the VA that actually says just go clean it up, just go fix it. And you're right, seeing upper management people when their heads start rolling, they start getting fired. There'll be a little bit of an uproar, but if you can stomach it, it's going to make it better because it's going to put everybody in line. But until that happens, it's going to be an uphill battle. I
Well,
just don't want it to go away. And I think a lot of veterans, we're just worried it's going to one day it's going to be like, nope, VA's gone, too much money, and that's what we're concerned about.
the buck stops with the secretary, right? And the secretary being in cahoots with the president is not a good thing at
Well,
all.
we gotta everybody knows, and Ian and I know this too, that Trump likes yes men around him,
Of
and
course. Yeah.
that's a problem. You can't always a good leader will want someone that's going to tell him sometimes you're hey sir, you're fucked up. They
Exactly.
say
We need to
that,
hear
but
that,
you know,
right?
but and that's not a good thing. Well, I mean, I can still I'll tweet it all over. I've cussed a lot on X, and I haven't got banned yet. So maybe I'm just not
Well, you could
cussing.
do that. You just can't threaten anybody.
Maybe
But
I don't got
but
threatened to do anything to. Come on, man. That's
yeah.
not
But
on X anyway.
yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, and I do think that, yeah, just in general, like politics has really infiltrated everything to the point of whether you talk about like Supreme Court justice appointments. Like, I don't know how we ever get to the point of where it's like I'm appointing this person because they're the most qualified for the job. It's just like you now literally just it's a Republican Supreme Court justice or it's a Democrat Supreme Court justice, and they're going to vote down the line that way when no one in real life really operates that way. I mean, there are
No.
some people, I'm not taking a shot at him, but like, Andrew Wilkow, we both know, like, I don't think Andrew is to the left on any issue at all. There are certain issues I'm to the left on. There's certain issues I'm to the right. And I do think that's the majority of America. But the problem is, yeah, party loyalty, loyalty to the administration that you're with, ideology before everything else. But yeah, anything? Do you have any other insight you want to add? This has been good. I'll be honest. I know you're going to ruffle a lot of feathers with our audience, but that's okay. I've always liked
We
doing
do
the
it all
show
the
that
time.
way, and not having. I mean, for like at least since we've done the show, the one thing I've always said is I don't want to have any politicians on here
Yeah.
because I don't want this show to be so ideological. I want Democrats or Republicans to be able to listen to the show, get something out of it, and whether we have a guest on that's going to piss them off or not, I'm always going to give everyone a fair shake. And I'd rather do that than, you turn on the news and it's like, it's just, they'll have someone on just to hammer them because they don't agree with them. And I don't like to ever
I
be that
piss
guy.
off
Like
people
when we had
all
our
the
episode
time.
with Jason, a lot of the comments were that they really hated everything Jason had to say. That's cool. I mean, I'm fine. People hate everything I have to say sometimes. I think when you do this stuff publicly, you can't have a thin skin about it, and you got to be genuine. And I think at least a lot of people are going to respect the authenticity of what you bring. But anyway, enough of my monologue here. Yeah, was there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Um, no, I appreciate the work that you all do and the attention you're bringing to some really important issues. When I heard that podcast on Jason that Jason did, I could it really resonated with me, and I thought I got to reach out to these guys.
Well, it's funny. Both of you are, when Jason was on, I didn't even know we were going to go in that direction, but he was like, I don't care if I get fired. I have to say this. And I'm like, all right. And I mean, I was just at his house, so he's obviously not fired. He seems to be doing well. But like, you were the same thing. You messaged me and you were like, I don't know. I might get fired for this. And that's. But hey, if you want to come on and speak your mind, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and
hope you
Beck,
don't get
Beck,
fired for anything, but I don't think you said anything that was fireable, right? I mean, you're being honest, but I know that there's also people who are thin-skinned that'll be like, well, you disrespected the administration. I mean, who cares?
well,
Right. It's called freedom of speech, but these days anymore.
and Beck, honestly, it's those like yourself that just do the work. Do the work, come in, that keep taking care of us. Those are the ones that I see. I see for me personally, it's the person when I walk in and gets me checked in. It's the person when I walk in and gets me. I have to go check in again. It's no big deal. But it's those people that's if politics affects them, that's when it affects the veterans. And from what I've seen out here, um, nobody asked me, and that's what I love. I can go in there. Nobody wants to ask me what Trump or Biden or Obama or Hillary. The only place where I never get asked about Hillary, which I get asked about Hillary all the time because of what happened. But I love that. I love that nobody asked me. And you have your views. Have your views. I don't give a shit.
Exactly. Nobody should be
Take
asking
care.
you.
And that's what's going to keep the VA strong. And then you're right, us pushing those damn people up top, and I completely agree with it. There's too many. You don't need 8 million assistant directors. Get their asses out of there.
I'm
and
with you there.
and hire people and bring them up correctly. And it's gonna happen. Be positive. It's gonna happen. We just got to keep grinding along. And so I just want you guys, to all the people that you work with, please tell them, keep doing what you're doing, even if the politics of it or who you don't agree with, because it really does make a difference to us when
Oh,
we go in
thank
there
you.
and
I'm not going anywhere.
are good.
You
And I
guys
don't,
are
I,
stuck.
I won't I don't talk politics when I come in the VA either. I don't want to talk politics. I just want to say, just talk. And hey, this is what's wrong. Can you help me? Or
Exactly.
and
And that's what we're here for.
I appreciate it. Do you have any? Well, we can't put that out there, huh? She doesn't have any
You
pseudo
can't put out social media or anything, right? Yeah, so.
extra social media.
No, I'm just a ghost.
All right, be a ghost. And yeah, however, those people that are firing those efficiency claims through and not actually looking at them just to get bonuses, kick them in their balls for me, please. Tell them
I
not
will. I will.
But yeah, no, it's been wonderful, and it appreciate you coming on and
Oh, it's
continue
my
to take care
honor.
of us. It means a lot to me. I know.
Thank you. Feel free to pass on my info to Jason.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, you guys, take it easy.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit. Head on. And as always, never quit.